Hey there and welcome in to another edition of UP Power, the first UP Power of 2025. Keegan, Happy New Year. I think we've gone past the statute of limitations, as Larry David said on Curb. But it's the new year and, well, we have a basketball poll to get into. Let's start right there because we were waiting on this. You know, it's fun to, a month or so, 6 weeks into the season, figure out where these teams stack up according to the media like us. But when everyone gets to vote, we get to see, where these teams are at. So let's start in divisions 1 through 3 on the boys' side. We'll just give you 1 through 5 and then talk about each team. In divisions 1 through 3, we've seen most of these teams. Marquette, number 1, 6-2. Kingsford at number 2, they are 7-1. Westwood 7-3 at number 3. Iron Mountain 5-2, and Negaunee at number 5, also at 5-2. Receiving votes in this poll, Munising is up to D3. They are 7-2, and Houghton 7-1. Let's start with 1 and 2. They played each other Friday night. I was there, Keegan, Marquette and Kingsford. Kingsford playing without Morgan Slike. That hurt them. Obviously, you have a kid who's moving on to play college basketball at Carroll University next year. He was out, but Kingsford held their own. They never led in the game. They lost by 5. It was kind of a strange game in that aspect, but Marquette is so deep, and that's how they beat Iron Mountain. I think that's how they beat Kingsford, where Rich Leedy is able to bring guys off the bench to sink a 3, play good defense. They played really good defense. I don't think they played as fast as they wanted to, because I talked to Rich before the game that they're going to run and gun when they can, because Jermu is explosive. When he gets to his right hand, I have to say, I would not let him get his right hand if I was guarding him. That's easier said than done because, like I said, he's explosive. They didn't run as much as I thought they might, but Jermu was good in that game. McPhee, of course, he broke the Marquette all-time rebounding record in that game. Grondin didn't get going until the second half, really, and that kind of hurt Kingsford because, obviously, when you're talking about scoring and the Flivers, it's going to be Grondin. He had 28 last night, Monday night, against Forest Park. So that was the difference in that game. Marquette just a little bit deeper. I would imagine they would say they didn't play their best game in that one, but I agree Sentinels should be number 1. Though those only 2 losses are to Traverse City West, Traverse City Central. They're the only team on this list that hasn't lost a game to another UP team. Yeah, no, I think they're playing, even though they didn't play their best basketball against Kingsford, they're playing complete basketball, and these good teams find a way to win. They're incredibly deep, so it is. It's like the term we talk about is platooning. Being able to sub 3 guys in at a time or 4, or sub a whole new 5 in and give some guys a break. Jacob McPhee has been a great vocal leader on the floor. From watching him play and how he's grown into that vocal presence. What Jeremy is able to do, what Ford Richardson is able to do. Watching Kyler Sager play above the rim this year. All those guys together are making it work. They definitely do deserve the first spot. And I think Kingsford, only a 5-point loss to Marquette, is a close second, though. Just kind of the Sentinels get the edge in that game. Yeah, it was good defense played in that game on both sides. And you bring up Richardson. He had the dagger in that one from 3, and that's what I'm saying. Like, McPhee and Jermu are going to take most of their shots. They're going to get most of the fast break points, too. But Richardson did it again last night against Escanaba. He's an X factor as a junior. We talk about him on the football field. He might be a better basketball player. I think he's a better quarterback, but it's close. He's a really good athlete, and yeah, he's just one of those guys that he starts for them. But like I said, Leedy brings guys off the bench, and they can get it done too. Obviously, they play good defense. Holding Kingsford to 53 is a good accomplishment. So Marquette off to a good start, as we kind of suspected. They might meet those Traverse City teams again in March like they did last year. So let's move on to 3 and 4, Westwood and Iron Mountain. They went head-to-head Friday night. Westwood, I think they were kind of unproven up until this point, but they have a dude in Ethan Marta. He was a dude Friday night, and one of the things I talked with Rich Leedy about before the Kingsford game was that Iron Mountain game that they had at home was actually their last game before the Flivvers came to town. And he said Iron Mountain, they didn't go into their bench at all, so they were trying to wear them down. I think that was the case again against the Mountaineers with Westwood in town, where if Oscar Kangas is in foul trouble and he's not having his best night, then where do they go? And they're not, hitting 50% of their threes. The Mountaineers get in a little bit of trouble, and that happened against Westwood.
Yeah, no, it did. And speaking on the Patriots, what Ethan Marta and Tristan Miller are able to do for Westwood and kind of be those leaders. I mean, 25 points for Ethan Marta against Iron Mountain. It's not an easy feat to do. Tristan Miller coming in, being able to bang inside and grab rebounds, but also step outside and hit a couple threes.
That kid's tough.
Some big shots made in there. It's not an easy feat to go up against Oscar Kangas. And Tristan Miller stood tall and stood up to the task. That game was interesting just because Iron Mountain jumps out to this 5-6 point lead. I think they were up at 8 by 1 point, and you're like, oh, okay, this is
teetering
on going in. Iron Mountain's going to pull away, and this one's going to be over. And then, Westwood gets a steal and a layup. Ethan Marta hits a 3. Tristan Miller hits a 3. Now we're tied. And once Westwood took the lead, they kept the foot on the gas and were able to just kind of grind it out. And like you said, I think wear Iron Mountain down almost.
Yeah, well, Westwood did the same thing to Kingsford when they had them at home. I left at halftime of that game. It was about a 10-point lead for Kingsford. And Westwood kept it right there. So that it tells you a lot how they're not going to get blown out by anyone.
No.
And the way the Patriots are playing, if the threes are falling for Miller and Marta doesn't even need to take that many threes.
True.
He's at his best when he's going to the rim. I think we've seen that a lot already through their first 10 games of the year. And yeah, they're a force to be reckoned with. I think that win at Iron Mountain definitely proves that. I have no idea the last time Westwood beat Iron Mountain. I have a feeling it's been a while, even though they play each other twice a year. We might have to dig up some research on that. But yeah, really good win for the Patriots. We'll see how they keep moving forward here. Negaunee's number 5. This was a team we had way outside the top 5 early in the year. They got blown out by Marquette. Didn't look all that pretty, but they've come on. Jordan Gannett is their leader. He's their top scorer. Even last night I caught a little bit of their game against Calumet. Calumet couldn't really match up with them, but Gannett had 10 points, I think. Holden Meyer was on fire from the corner. So Negaunee are a really pretty complete team too, and they're certainly deserving of the 5 spot here in the poll.
No, I think it just took a little time for the Miners to kind of turn it on and figure out things. When it's a new season and you don't have a Gavin Saunders anymore, it's and you haven't, you practice and you played against each other, but you really haven't seen enough competition to really gauge who's going to be taking the shots, a majority of the shots for us. And if it's a close game, who's going to get the ball in those moments? And Jordan Gannett has kind of proved, hey, I can be that guy. I can carry the scoring load. And the Miners really have put it together and turned it on. So, yeah, I think, these top 5 teams, all of which are, playing at a high level right now and will continue to get better as the season goes on. But the Miners, deserving of the 5 spot. Yeah,
and a team that we should touch on that we thought would be in this poll, I'm going to see him play Friday night at Marquette, is Menominee. Yeah. Struggling a little bit. I don't think either of us have watched them play yet. But that was a team that was in the state quarterfinals last year. Really good. Obviously, they don't have Trevor Turkoff, who was, their best guard probably last year. That's another team that's figuring things out.
Yeah.
We talk about Negaunee went down there and got a win. I think we were both surprised by that. That's when, the Miners really kind of separated themselves from the Maroons and jumped into the top 5 here in the poll, the first edition of the poll. But we'll see if Menominee can turn it on. I think they can.
Yeah.
Tanner Turkoff brought up Ford Richardson, but Turcoff, I really think, is a better basketball player than football.
Yeah, no, yeah, vice versa.
He's a darn good football player.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, his length and athleticism is, top notch in the UP. So we'll see if the Maroons can sneak in at some point later in the season. I think they do. Receiving votes in the 1 through 3 poll: Munising, solid team. We know that. State champs two years ago. Obviously, much different group, but Carson Kinnitz, son of their head coach Terry, he's been really good. He had 20 plus last night in a win for the Mustangs. And then Houghton, 7-1, playing good basketball. So far, the Gremlins girls team, which we'll get to, they're doing the same. So
a good top 5 for the first week. Munising, Houghton. I think Menominee probably maybe didn't receive votes, but is probably hanging out
lurking
there in that spot. Yeah, Munising, watch out for the Mustangs. Carson Kienitz, Trevor Nolan, Jack Dussault, those guys, they've been there before, and I got a feeling they're kind of on a mission, even though they're moving up to Division III. It's
a good core that they have for sure. Let's move on to Division IV. Forest Park, undefeated at the time this was voted on. Not anymore. They lost to Kingsford. They are still number 1. Dollar Bay is 7-1 at number 2. Pickford is 4-1 at number 3. Tied for 4th. Norway, 5-3. North Central, 6-2. I think that's fair. Knights get another win last night. Let's talk about Forest Park. I think we're still very impressed with what they can do. Hung around with Kingsford. Grondon kind of wore them down, and the Flivers were able to pull away a little bit. But Kevin Giuliani, that's enough to win a lot of basketball games.
No, yeah, it is. The dynamic duo combo of Kevin and Vic and what they're able to do has allowed them to have some success. I mean, Vic's length as well. We talk about Tanner Turcoff's length. Vic, kind of that lengthy guard.
I was watching him dunk last year as a sophomore. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, and then, you got kind of the vice versa of that. You got Kevin, who's kind of a big man and strong and rebounds and can kind of bang inside. Kind of a dynamic duo that works.
He's a grown man.
Yeah, he is, and I would not get in his way. Not on the football field and not on the basketball court.
Nope.
When they played Kingsford last night, I think it was kind of that Kingsford was able to wear them down. The Flivers played really good defense and got some easy baskets with some steals. One of those, was the steal from Gavin Grondin, and he gets the two-handed slam, and that was really kind of what put the nail in the coffin. I think they were up by like 18 at that point.
Yeah.
When Grondin gets that basket, so Forest Park just kind of ran out of gas, I think, against the Flivers, and Kingsford kept hitting shots. But what Kevin and Vic are doing and what they'll continue to do bodes well for the Trojans.
Yeah, the Trojans have athletes all over the floor, too. You think about Dax Hookey, which he was huge for them in their run to the football state title. So, yeah, in Division IV, especially, I think they're the team that we see going pretty far.
I know Isaiah Tartar had some big shots against
good player.
Against Kingsford last night. So, yeah, they've got the tools to do it. It's just keep
That's
on
why
checking.
I think in Division IV right now it's Forest Park and the rest.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on the rest. It's how good Forest Park is. You saw it competing with Kingsford for 3 quarters essentially last night. So, like the Trojans and everyone else on this list, I think we'll have to see a little bit more. North Dickinson received votes. Baraga received votes. Hannahville and Lance. So you have a lot of teams down there kind of bunched up that they could knock each other off. You think about Baraga and Lance, the Battle of Baraga County you were at a couple weeks ago. Those teams play 10 times. I think 5 apiece would be fair because they're very evenly matched.
Yeah, Daniel Connor from Baraga. I mean, come on, man. That guy was on fire against Lance, and it really is kind of a toss-up. I have to agree. It's Forest Park here, and then you don't know because we got to see these teams play a little bit more before we can really elevate them.
For sure. Dollar Bay, we'll say we haven't watched them play. 7-1. We will be checking out the Blue Bolts. Off to a really good start. Let's flip over to the girls' side. Divisions 1 through 3. Negaunee 9-0. They are number 1. Gladstone 7-0 at number 2. Houghton is 5-2, as I mentioned. They are number 3. Sault Ste. Marie is 6-1. Calumet 4-2 at number 5. And then receiving votes, Ishpeming, the reigning D4 state champs, but they're into D3 this year. So a different road for the Hematites if they make a push in the postseason. But starting at the top, Negaunee, they're still really good.
Yeah, you know,
Aubrey and Gretel Johnson, that's a great, guard duo that they have. And then the O'Donnell sisters inside, too. It's a whole family affair with the Miners. Obviously, they're well coached, Mike O'Donnell, taking them down to East Lansing last year. I like everything the Miners do, and they're deserving of the #1 spot.
They are. Their outside play, their inside play on offense, what they do on defense, the pressure that they put on. And I think that's a combination
They
of...
play really good defense.
Yeah.
When Mike messaged us one night, looking for more points, it's like, yeah, but you still won by 20.
Yeah, true.
Because they played really, really good defense.
Yeah, and they've been in those situations before. Some of these girls have experience. They've gone to East Lansing before, so they kind of know what it means to be, hey, if we're going to be at the top and we're going to be the best, this is how we have to play every night. And they've done that, and deserving at 9-0. I mean, I don't know right now a team that they don't beat in the regular season.
I agree. And, well, let's talk about Ishpeming, because thinking about Negaunee going to East Lansing last year, Ella Mason, their star player, now playing at Tech. Life without Ella Mason is going a little bit better for the Miners than life without Jenna Mackey for the Ishpeming Hematites. They are 3-2 right now. Janessa Eagle kind of has to do everything as it stands currently, and we're waiting to see if Maya Hemmer will rejoin the team this semester, because obviously that would be huge for Ishpeming to have another one of their stars, a junior, same age as Eagle, back in the saddle for that team that was so dynamic last year. Only lost one game to Negaunee. Already got 2 losses on the year, so a little bit of a uphill battle, but I'm going to see the Hematites tonight. We'll see if Hemmer is back. We'll try and get an update on her status as she tries to get reinstated from the MHSAA. So, Ishpeming been a somewhat rocky road, but I think they can turn it on here.
Yeah, I think, it's difficult for any team, right? The Hematites win the state championship. They have Jenna Mackey, they have, Addison Morton, they have Katie Kokula, they have Janessa Eagle, they have Maya
Yeah, you
Hemmer.
forget. I only brought up Mackey, but, those other seniors, even though Eagle and Hemmer were carrying a lot of the load, to build a championship team, you need those pieces around your stars, and a lot of those seniors filled those roles. Katie Kokula made a lot of threes for that team last year.
Yeah, and so it's kind of that, I'll make the same comparison. When you look at Negaunee and Ishpeming girls basketball, the Miners lose Ella Mason. Ishpeming loses arguably more in Mackey, Addison Morton, Katie Kokula. They are without Maya Hemmer so far this season. So it's that next man up mentality. I think, or next gal up mentality. Who's going to be that scorer for Negaunee? It's Aubrey and Gretel Johnson. For Ishpeming, it's Janessa right now, but if they get Hemmer back, then you have Hemmer. If it's not, they've got to find that other person who can, 8 to 10 points a night, they can put the ball in the basket for the Hematites. Yeah,
and their 2 losses are to Gladstone. We'll get to them in just a moment. Obviously, a really good team. They're undefeated, and then they lost to Calumet, who's number 5 in this poll, and the Copper Kings. They impressed me that night. It was a night where Janessa Eagle wasn't on, and Ishpeming just had nothing going. So that's my fear with them as they move forward. It's a different story if Maya Hemmer is out there. But Copper Kings really impressed me in that game. Jackie Keelanen, I don't believe, played basketball last year. She was, one of their stars on the volleyball team. Of course, Calumet volleyball, really, really good for past couple of years, dating back a long time even. So Keelanen, she had 20 plus in that game. She was really good, so Calumet certainly a team to keep an eye on. But let's talk Gladstone. One of 2 undefeated teams in this, Division 1 through 3 poll, but even there's only 3 total across all 4 polls here. Lakeland and Hubble being the other one in D4 on the girls' side. Gladstone, Lily Johnson, she's got D1 offers already. Obviously, she grew up around basketball. Her dad is the men's coach at Bay College. So I've noticed a big leap from her from sophomore to junior year here, where she's taking over games and teams can't really stop her.
Yeah, and I think it's on multiple levels. Not only offensively is she able to go into a game, get the ball and go score. Defensively, and also as a leader, growing from that sophomore year to a junior year, being a vocal leader on the floor, calling out plays, talking to her team. You've really seen it in the first couple bulk of the season here, and that's only going to bode well from them. If she's that calming presence for the Braves, when maybe they're missing shots or they get a turnover or something like that, and she's able to say, "Hey, calm down, here we go," and go score. I mean, she's got parts that remind me of Ella Mason, where she could go in and just take over a game.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. It's exciting basketball to watch when she drives and scores and gets a steal and scores, pulls up for three and scores, or drives to the elbow, pulls up for a jumper. I know. It's.
And she's taller than most players on the floor at this level, so even that is pretty significant. But yeah, she can put the rock on the ground. She can do a lot of things, and she's the big reason why Gladstone is 7-0. Moving on to the D4 poll, St. Ignace is number 1 at 5-1. That should surprise nobody. Ewan-Trout Creek strong again. They have the Bestman sisters, who are young, but man,
fun to watch.
Yeah. They're talented players. They are 7-1. Lakeland and Hubble, as we mentioned, 7-0. Munising 6-0. I left them out. Sorry, Mustangs, but they're number 4.
I didn't notice.
In the D4 poll, Lant is number 5. They are 5-1. Then Baraga is 4-3, and Newberry also receiving votes. So these teams are bunched up. There's not a lot separating a lot of these teams, in my opinion. We haven't seen St. Ignace yet, but they have Jillian Frazier was a big piece for them last year. And Ewan-Trout Creek, as we mentioned, they're very impressive. They lost in the district final to Ishpeming last year. Obviously, they won't have to go through Ishpeming this year, so maybe a district title's in their future. I don't want to jinx anyone, but Lakeland and Humboldt, too. Emily Jokla is a great athlete.
Hooper.
And, she's a big reason why they're undefeated. These teams are bunched up in D4 on the girls' side.
Yeah, I mean, we think about, and I'm receiving votes, the Battle of Baraga County back to Baraga and Lons. Those two teams are, that was a battle.
Evenly matched too.
Yeah, well coached, both of those teams, and that really could have gone, either way. Ewan-Trout Creek, same thing. They kind of live. There's no true top one now. I haven't seen St. Ignace play, so I can't comment on that. But this could look completely different next week, depending on how games go here. So it's kind of a battle in girls Division IV of who might claim the top spot in the UP poll, but who might claim the top spot in Division IV for just the UP. Absolutely.
Well, let's touch on high school hockey a little bit. A lot of downstate teams up in the UP last weekend. The UP teams fared pretty well, and then most of them going down to the Traverse City Showcase this weekend. You watched Marquette play a couple times now, and they started slow, but they have turned it on here a little bit. That Orchard Lake St. Mary's series was tough for them, but that's a really, really good team up at Lakeview, and then dominated Negaunee, as you would suspect, on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's the same case. I feel like I'm preaching the same story, but they had a tremendous amount of seniors graduate from that team last year. So when you have, and don't quote me, but I think it was like 11, 12, 13 seniors graduate, it's now this younger class coming in that may not have seen as much ice time, that is now seeing a lot of ice time. And I think the beginning of their season was growing pains and was, we're getting the shifts now. We're getting the ice time. It's us. It's not, whoever, whoever else was before us. It's our time now. So they're going through growing pains. I think the key for them, though, and I've watched them play a few times, is, limit their penalties. And when they get a penalty, when they get a power play, capitalize, right? They have the skill set to do that. They skate very well. Their forecheck is great. It's now, hey, we've got to limit our penalties, because I saw them in a couple games, and it's like they get a penalty. Okay, they're down a man. Well, then they kill the power play. Well, then they get another penalty, and so you're playing, virtually 3 periods of hockey with 4 guys. You don't have your 5th guy out there. It's tough to win.
That's all right. And Houghton, they already have more losses than last year, but they've kind of turned it on here.
Yeah.
As I thought they would. Eventually, they lost quite a bit, especially probably the best goaltender in the state, and Bryant Lee, who's now at Tech. So they've turned it on. They lost the McInnes Classic to Livonia Stevenson. That was a tough, close game. But another team you got to keep an eye on, Jeffers, 11-1.
Yeah.
They are playing really well at Marquette tonight. So we'll see how that one goes. But keep an eye on the Jets. Hancock had a little winning streak come to an end. But yeah, these teams are just trying to get through the middle of the season here and see where they're going to shake out come the postseason in February. It's coming up quick.
It is. It's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah. Let's jump up to the college ranks, and we'll stay with hockey because if another fun weekend at the GLI. I know Sunday, Monday. I'm going to call it a weekend because it's between Christmas and New Year's. Nothing matters that week. But we'll start with Northern because they didn't play this past weekend. They're jumping right back into CCHA play after the GLI, but they maybe played their 2 best games of the year.
Yeah.
Two losses, but 2-0 to Michigan State, where they kept themselves in it, which was really impressive.
No, yeah, and I said this before the GLI weekend. Northern Michigan probably not going to win it, but they should go in with a couple goals, and that is keep themselves in the game, limit their penalties. Which, quote me if I'm wrong, but in the Michigan State game, there were no penalties. It was the first NMU game since the 70s where there were no penalties. Yeah,
I knew that was uncommon, but I didn't realize
it's wild
that streak held for that long. But yeah, very clean game against Michigan State. They went by really fast.
And when you're playing the number 1 team in the country, you got to play clean, because if you give Michigan State power plays, they're going to score.
It's the best line in college hockey right now with Stramel, Howard, and Russell. Those guys are rolling. And you saw it at Wrigley Field this past weekend against Wisconsin. Game winner with like 2 seconds left on the clock. That was pretty awesome. The Spartans are fantastic. I'm really kind of rooting for them as they go forward, because obviously Trey Augustine just got another year free Chipotle for winning World Juniors as their goalie again. That was pretty cool. Hampton Slakinski, who was obviously committed to Northern, joining his brother at Western this year. He's backing up Cameron Rowe. He was backing up Augustine in those juniors. So pretty cool to see USA come out on top of Finland of all teams. Tom Leppa of Tech was playing on Team Finland, so they get silver, but the US of A gets gold. I love that tournament. It's in the US next year.
And free Chipotle. That's really
I'm a little jealous. I should have been good at hockey.
Yeah, can I be the waterboard next year? I will be. No, yeah, I mean, it's, for Northern, no, they didn't win, but I think, I agree with you. I think they played probably their best 2 games. You think about what they did.
Let's talk about the Tech game.
They get the power play going.
If they keep doing that, they're going to win some here in the second half. I've been saying that should be what you're thinking about. Just steal games off of these teams. They went to overtime with Mankato, won the shootout. Yeah. That was huge. They didn't get the 3 points, but you'll take a shootout win. Number 12, that's who's at the Berry this weekend. Man, you just think about how pissed Minnesota State would be if they lose one to Northern Michigan.
Yeah.
They would be, because it would really hurt their tournament chances, because right now they're really the only team in the CCHA that could qualify for the national tournament without winning the Mason Cup come March. So, yeah, that should be what NMU's thinking about in the second half. Like, whatever, let's just go out there and compete. And they've been competing, and that's why Dave Shayak deserves a lot of credit, because they compete hard. Even though they might not have the talent, they might not have the goal scorers. that they need to win consistently in this league and at this level. But yeah, that's what they did at the GLI, where they went down 3-1 in the third period. You think a team that's won 16-1 is just going to lay on the ice and let the time run out. They did not. They were 3 for 4 on the power play. Tech was 1 for 5 in that game. That's the difference. That's why it went to overtime. But in OT, the 3-on-3, anything can happen. It was right away. Logan Morrell did what he does. You want to talk about Tech now?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, because they are on a heater, man.
Yeah, and it's even they dropped one by a goal to Western Michigan, number 4 in the country. They dropped one by a goal to UMass out in Palm Springs, number 10 team in the country. So you wanted those wins, but Tech played really well, and then they beat the teams they should beat. They beat Holy Cross in overtime. They beat Northern in overtime. I just think it does a lot for the morale of a group, especially going outside the conference in the middle of the year, to win games like that and also compete for 60 minutes with 2 top 10 teams.
No, yeah, and it's kind of a different dynamic because it's not the normal schedule. It's a holiday break, but to be able to go out there.
Well, that travel wasn't easy either, because you got to bus down to Grand Rapids, 9-hour bus trip.
Probably, yeah.
I would imagine. They stayed down there, flew out to California, and it sounded like Joe Sean was a little bit under the weather today. You understand how that happened, flying from the desert back up to the UP. The travel was a lot, so the fact that they were able to go 2-2 and have these fun overtime wins, I just think it was a good mid-season with these 2 tournaments. I think it was a good idea to schedule the Palm Springs tournament too, where they have some momentum here going into Lake State.
Yeah, it keeps them going and keeps them scoring goals. I mean, you're coming back to conference play off an overtime win, a thrilling win, and what Steven Sardarian and Logan Morrell and Isaac Gordon
Sardarian's
doing.
Incredible.
He might be CCHA Player of the Year.
I was just going to bring that up.
He's
He's in the conversation at the very least, and we're only halfway through the season. We haven't seen a lot of the guys from Bemidji, Minnesota State. We'll catch them this weekend at Northern. There's some really good teams, but Sardarian.
Yeah, finding guys, scoring goals.
With the points, he's might be number 1 in the conference in
26?
points, because he's dishing it out, man. And that's what Morrell said. The game winner against Holy Cross was, Sardarian put it right on my stick. I'm gonna make that.
I'm gonna make that. Yeah.
And of course he did. He has multiple times. That's what he did. The game winner against Northern.
Yeah, and I know, talking with some of the assistant coaches and even Joe Sean, Sardarian has this ability to just keep the puck, skate, and keep the puck for as long as he needs to keep it before he can find his guy and they put it in. And that just, man, it's kind of a marvel to watch when he gets the puck at, the blue line or wherever he gets it and he finds his guy and they score. And you're like, you kind of expect it. If Sardarian's got the puck, it's like, Tech's about to score here.
Yeah, it's these newcomers, and I think back to Tech Northern at the beginning of November, sitting there with Jeff Mickish, former Husky. He picked out Sardarian right away because it was still early in the season. Obviously, he transferred over in the offseason. That's why he's an NHL draft pick, because you look at him and you're like, wow, he's a presence. And he's big and he's fast and he's playing great for Tech right now. And it's not the guys that we suspected going into the season, with a lot of point production. I mean, Gordo's been good. He's a preseason player of the year. He's been good, but he hasn't been scoring a ton.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily need to. You think about Chase Pietola, the only Pietola on the roster anymore, which I appreciate. It's a little less confusing.
Pietola, goal!
That's how it was for a couple of years there.
Yeah, for a while, yeah.
But, he's been really, really good, too. Yeah. Just not necessarily putting up the points that you might have expected. You and I are on the same page with this team. I think they have the potential to be a tournament team again. That might take making the Mason Cup and winning it. But you're going to cross that bridge when you get to it, right?
Yeah, they got to start their weekend off right here with a win against Lake State.
Back home, that'll be nice for them. They haven't played at home since December 6th and 7th.
Yeah. So what? Over a month now.
They played pretty poor against St. Thomas that weekend. But yeah, the Lakers coming in, and then you're at Minnesota State. That will be a good bellwether for where the Huskies are at. And then you got home and home with NMU at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So
some good hockey coming up.
absolutely. Well, really good basketball coming up Thursday night. NMU-Tech men's and women's game. I want to start with the men's game because we were talking about this, and Matt Mackerzak brought it up to me today. When was the last time these teams met where they were both, above 500 in conference, sitting there right at the top of the conference, where we don't really know what's going to happen Thursday night because both teams playing pretty well. Tech had won 6 in a row before falling to Davenport on Saturday. Northern has won 7 in a row. They're on a complete roll. They're 4-0 in the GLIAC, but Tech has a guy named Marcus Tomaszek.
Yeah.
Who put on a show on a national stage, what turned out to be against Green Bay in that game, and everyone kind of knows he's the best player in D2 or right there.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm going to quote Mike Lozier, who often says this when we interview him, the head coach of NMU volleyball. When it comes to the rivalry series, you kind of just got to throw everything out the window.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, a part of me wants to say that, the Huskies are going to try to get Marcus Tomaszek the ball. Well, if Northern goes to a box-and-1 and tries to run Tomaszek off the three-point line and keep the ball out of his hands, well, then what do the Huskies do? Well, they go inside to Dawson Norgard, or they go outside to Josh Terrian or Pete Calcaterra or Nate Abel. All these guys that on the Huskies roster have the ability to shoot and score and do those things. When you think about NMU and the transfers that they brought in, you've got the core, right? Dylan Keel, Sam Privet, Brian Parzik. That's a core that's played against these, the Huskies. But for these new guys, Biggie Lester, Julian Smith, Gerald Gittins Jr., it's kind of going to be a new experience.
Certainly will.
For them. So,
kind of wish this was on a Saturday, but,
Yeah, is it going to be a gritty game? I think so. Is it going to be a high-scoring game? Probably also.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. Dylan Keel's playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
He's been in double figures 11 out of the last 12 games, including the last 10. He's putting up double-doubles here and there, too. He's just so consistent. I talked to Mackerzak about that today, just how steady he's been and how big that is for them. Not too early to look at the GLIAC standings either. Tech is 3-1, Lake State's 3-1, NMU and Ferris are 4-0. I think those are your top 4 teams right there. Grand Valley's 2-2. I would put them in there as well. But that thing's going to go down to the wire, and I think we have 2 of the very best teams, right here in the UP, and 3 really.
Yeah, 3.
You throw Lake State, they were picked number 1 at the beginning of the year. So, exciting times. Looking forward to that one on Thursday. Interested to see how Tech comes out after the loss to Davenport. They didn't play their best that whole weekend. I think might be a little bit lucky to get that win on Thursday night. But, at the same time, I think I'll make the excuses for the Huskies. You get a week off, you get like 2 days of practice, and then you're going on the road and jumping back into conference play. That's not easy. So I'm not judging the Huskies off of those 2 games.
Yeah.
Right out of the holiday break.
Thrown to the fact that the power went out.
Yeah, that was weird.
How do you?
That game actually finished at 11:15 at night.
Yeah, that's a weird concept, and I know I'm jumping, but Sam Clayton talked about this. Do you keep your team warm? Do you tell them to sit down? Do you let them eat because they haven't eaten for forever? There's all these factors that go into it, so tough to do. It will be an exciting night for the men's game and women's game on Thursday night. All 4 of these teams, have the potential and have had success in the past. For me, it comes down to this. Do the Huskies stay out of foul trouble? Right?
Yeah.
Dawson Norgard and, Pete Calcaterra, like those guys that kind of play that inside-out basketball. can they stay out of foul trouble? And for the Wildcats, taking care of the basketball, right?
For
no
sure.
turnovers.
Well, we know that NMU is going to press a little bit. That's become somewhat of their identity this season, as opposed to last season, where they're trying to create turnovers and get fast break points that way. And those guards have been good at that. And I think for Tech, which has really become true for them this year, is Tomaszek is okay if he only has 8 points or whatever, and Fernholz steps up. That was the case in the 1-point win over Grand Valley. And all those guys around Marcus are also okay if he scores 38 and they do nothing. They're not doing nothing because they know how to play around him.
Yeah.
And that's especially true this year. And Makerzak brought up how Tomaszek is way more confident going to the rim, and he's going to get to the free throw line. He's probably going to shoot 10 free throws in this game, probably make 9 of them. That's just who he is.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So it's interesting. Makerzak said they're going to put Privet on Norgard. I like that because then Dylan Keel's not getting in foul trouble. Yep. You know, and that's another trusty guy. When you think about Northern and the guys, their core over the past few years, outside of Max Borkland and Max Weisbrod, who were their go-to scorers the past 2 years respectively, it's been Privet, Parzik, and Keel. So those guys, that experience will bode well. Tech's a veteran group too. It's going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to it. Women's game too, because NMU will probably be without J.C. Weisbrod, which is significant. They're playing better than the Huskies right now, but without their leading scorer, things are a little bit different, and Bella Lenz is probably going to get hers.
Yeah, I think so, and it's a great opportunity for the Huskies in the rivalry to kind of come in and assert their dominance and assert their dominance.
You forget they did dominate the series prior to last year.
Yeah, so it's it's a little bit of, hey, we're gonna get one here. Bella Lenz is gonna do what she does. Kendall Standfast is gonna come in as a freshman and do what she does. You got Ella Mason. They're all back now. The health is there.
That's true. They
got to turn it on now.
Before this weekend,
injury.
The Tech women hadn't played for almost a month.
Yeah, and they were banged up at the beginning of the season. They had a lot of their freshmen playing a lot of minutes.
They're gonna keep getting better. I don't know what their postseason aspirations are or should be, but they're going to keep getting better. I know that, and they're obviously well coached. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Thursday night, Fox UP. Tune in. We'll have highlights afterwards as well. We'll hear from the winning coaches at the very least. Really looking forward to that. College football playoff on Thursday night too.
Weird.
Not happy about that.
I don't like the one game on one day and then we're going to put 3 games on the other day.
Thursday and Friday, it just doesn't seem right to me.
Friday.
They have some things to clean up. Notre Dame, Penn State Thursday night. Who you got?
I don't want to say it, but give me Penn State. I don't know why. They're playing good football. I want to go Notre Dame, but I think Penn State takes that one.
I don't like Penn State.
Yeah, well, I don't really like Penn State either, but I think they're going to win.
I'm kind of with you. I'm nervous for Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love, their running back who broke out a 98-yarder against Indiana in the first round. He's not 100% if he even goes. Obviously, they lost their best pass rusher. So, yeah. But I know a lot of UP football coaches had to be smiling at the way Notre Dame won that game over Georgia. It was defense and special teams. They didn't even have 300 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
And the game was won the middle 8. You always hear coaches talk about that. They get the strip sack. That turns into a touchdown. And then they get the kick return to open the second half. Boom, we got a lead. We play better defense than anyone in the country currently. They're on a 12-game winning streak. So I don't know. I really like Notre Dame. And at the same time, Penn State hasn't really beaten anyone impressive in this playoff. They beat SMU and Boise State.
True.
So they have not seen a team like Notre Dame. So go Irish for me, at least. And then Friday night, who do we got? Ohio State and Texas. Ohio State looks unstoppable.
Yeah. Texas, I would be worried, but I said
maybe it was the best thing that ever happened to him that Michigan beat him.
Yeah, it got him
I don't
angry.
know.
Got him angry going into the college football playoff. I don't know. Texas, you're going to have to play not perfect, but you're going to play
Well,
pretty
they're going to
close.
have to play 1,000 times better than they played against Arizona State.
Yeah.
How about that game?
Yeah, because they
I
almost
really
lost.
wanted Arizona State to pull that out. Scadaboo's the man.
Yeah, I thought, and he can live by the statement that no one can stop him. Now, Texas got him in the first half, but in the second half, Scadaboo got hits. And got a lot of
They
it.
had me in the first half, ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, they had me in the first half, ain't going to lie, but in the second half.
That was incredible. And Sam Levitt transferred from Michigan State. Jonathan Smith might be kicking himself about that, even though Aiden Child's pretty darn talented himself.
And my bracket is busted, by the way, because I picked ASU Boise State in the championship in there.
That was wishful thinking.
It was, I was close with Arizona State. It happened.
I'd like to see Ohio State Notre Dame in the final.
Yeah, I mean, if we're picking teams, I think Ohio State beats Texas. I'm going to say Penn State beats Notre Dame, but I don't know. I don't like Penn State.
But also
so
go Big
it'd be
Ten.
okay.
I like the Big Ten.
Yeah, the Big Ten, yeah.
Although those are my two least favorite teams in the Big Ten. If it's Ohio, that's how I'm going to sell myself on watching Ohio State Penn State is go Big Ten, because I guess I would prefer Ohio State to win. I think they would win again.
I think it's, if I'm being honest, I think it's Ohio State's
Jeremiah
championship to lose.
Smith.
Yeah.
Dude. Again, Oregon hadn't lost a game. Oregon beat them, and it was like, this is so easy.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, and the game was over.
And it wasn't like.
I guess Oregon only ended up losing by 20, but they were the best team in the country to that point. They still lost by 20.
And it was wide open passes. Too.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't through coverage or anything. So I don't know. I think I said this before, but it's Ohio State's national championship to lose.
I agree.
But it'll be exciting. It's weird to be still talking about college football, and we're gonna still be talking about college football.
Agreed.
We're gonna still talk about
Got
college
almost
football.
another 2 weeks.
Yeah, before a national championship is crowned. And then what do you think you got?
That's part of the thing they need to fix.
They're gonna move it up.
Play the national championship game on New Year's Day at the Rose Bowl. Is that too much to ask?
Say it again.
Just okay. Week 0 becomes week 1 for everyone. Everyone plays week 0. That's your new week 1. You move the season up a week, okay? And then we don't need to play conference championship games anymore. Why are we doing that? There's no point. You win your conference in the regular season. You're the conference champion. Wow, great. You're into the playoff. Okay, we can move that up. Move it up. Play all the games. Okay? Even if you want to do Friday night again, I'm fine with that before Christmas. Move it up. Play the national championship at the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. Okay?
You heard it here.
They're not going to listen to me.
I'd love to clip that and just send it to the committee.
Well, there are some national talk show hosts that do listen to what I have to say. Let's go to the NFL because the Lions told everyone Sunday night, we are just fine. Don't worry about us.
Yeah.
It's crazy how the media cycle and the narratives form about a team and then change in the matter of a week, 2 weeks. Certainly what happened with the Lions. Everyone got hurt. Everyone counted out the Lions. They lost to the Bills.
It's all over.
It's all over. Their defense, they don't have enough. Even if they get Anzalone back, not enough. They lost Montgomery. They can't make up for that. Jameer Gibbs can't do it all by himself. Yeah, right.
4 touchdowns. Over
Yeah,
100
I was
yards.
going to say, Jameer Gibbs might have scored 28 points by himself.
Yeah. Yeah, four touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 1 through the air. What is it? 25 carries for 139 yards.
I'm guilty of it. I texted my brother the first quarter of that game. The Lions are going to miss Montgomery in this game. Dumb.
Well, I when it was 17-9, I'm like, okay, Detroit, I think has it in the bag. And then it was Moore, and then it was Jameer Gibbs. And when I read the highlights, it was at one point like, who do you think they're going to give it to? They're giving it to Jameer Gibbs.
I think the Vikings made the mistake of, not to say they weren't aggressive in that game because they went for a couple 4th downs in the red zone that they just couldn't convert because the defense, those were the two storylines coming out of this game. Jahmyr Gibbs was incredible. Anyone who laughed at them taking him in the first round, you're dumb, like me. I'm dumb. But Jahmyr Gibbs was awesome. And then the defense. I mean, I asked you yesterday, I was like, do we want to hear from Campbell about Gibbs or the defense?
The defense, man.
It was the defense because they were so active, those DBs. And if he was back, obviously Anzalone, they were just, they made Justin Jefferson's life hard.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do. He's the best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
And they were like active hands. I think they only had one holding penalty. It was on Anzalone. You forget he wears the green dot too, so he's the signaler to the entire defense. He makes such a big impact. That was evident. Brian Branch going to the Pro Bowl along with a bunch of other Lions, as they should. 15 wins for the first time in the franchise's history. Number 1 seed for the first time in the franchise's history. I thought we were over all of this, like first time since or first time ever last year. They still had more boxes to check, and they did it this year. It's so impressive.
Jahmyr Gibbs ties the most touchdowns scored by a back for the Lions franchise.
Yeah.
They're just breaking. They're setting a bar and breaking more records, and it's exciting to watch.
And man, do they need a bye.
Yeah.
Week 5 was their bye.
Yeah, so give them.
And then you obviously know about all the injuries that they suffered. So having that bye is huge. You got to win 2 games at Ford Field to go to the Super Bowl.
The loudest field.
How do you not feel good about that?
Yeah, the loudest field. They said it on the broadcast. The loudest field.
100%.
The decibel in there is we were there.
Yeah.
What?
For sure.
A year ago, Thanksgiving, and it was loud.
I was back in the playoffs. Man, that Rams game was the loudest I've ever heard a stadium, and I think a lot of media members who've been to a lot more NFL games than me agreed with that. That place was electric. Right. So for the Lions now, 15-2 regular season, outstanding. They lost both of the games at home, which is interesting. They were 8-0 on the road. Lost the 2 games at home. But Dan Campbell, what he said to Kevin O'Connell
right
at the end of the
game,
game, I think that's going to come true.
Yeah.
I think they're getting... So, situation is, the Vikings have to go on the road this week now to the Rams. They at least get till Monday, so they get an extra day, which was a good move by the NFL. They deserve that extra day after, potentially having a bye and having this weekend off to now having to go play a game on the road this weekend. They're doing it on Monday. So if they win that game, the Vikings are the 5 seed.
Yeah.
They would obviously be moving on to the divisional round. Behind them is Washington going to take on Tampa.
Yeah.
If they lose and the Packers lose in Philly, boom, the Vikings are going back to Ford Field. So it's somewhat likely that it will happen, or potentially it's the Rams and 5, 6, 7 lose in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, it is. There aren't words to describe what is happening. I bring up another record.
Or obviously there's a world where the Packers beat the Eagles and they're automatically, because they're the 7th seed, going to Ford Field to play the Lions for the 3rd time this year.
Yeah. It'll be interesting how it all shakes
Obviously,
out.
the Lions swept the season series.
How about?
Want to talk about the Packers?
Yeah,
'Cause that's not good news.
That's not good news. Last thing, how about a 14-win team being a 5 seed?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, what? That's crazy.
It was said a million times before the game that 2 teams had never met with that many combined wins in the regular season. Obviously, we play 17 games now, but the fact that they were both 14-2 and one was going to get the 5 seed, it's just kind of mind-blowing and speaks to how tough the NFC North it was this year. And you want to ask one team how tough the NFC North was this year? Ask the Packers, because they were 1-5 in the division this year, and Matt LaFleur is going to have to wear that. And
could have been 0-6.
One finger.
One finger between 0 and 6 in the division.
To losing to the Bears twice would be
I mean,
mind-blowing. I couldn't believe that actually happened on Sunday, as someone who's watched all of those games over the last 7 years and always expected the same outcome and usually got it.
It was, dare I say, atrocious. Josh Jacobs is the thing that is holding the Packers together right
Agreed.
now. He just is. He
So
just is.
Christian Watson tore his ACL. He's done.
He's done,
So
which is unfortunate.
he's their deep ball threat.
Yeah.
They don't have that element of their offense to complement Josh Jacobs. That that just brings the potential of their offense down a little bit. You're going to Philly. They have an outstanding defense. They're the most complete team in the NFC besides the Lions. Whew.
Yeah, and then you got Jordan Love, who has not been. It's been a
Obviously, he
super-
came out of the game against the Bears. He could have gone back in if
Yeah.
they thought that was worth it. Thought it was the right move by LaFleur to keep him out of there.
Yeah, and LaFleur kind of commented on it after the game, where it's hard when you start the game, then you come out, then you go back in, and tempos change.
And Washington also ended up winning, so if the Packers won, they were still going to Philly. So,
Yeah.
right move. But Jordan Love's going to have to play better than he has all year.
Yeah.
And
he's gonna.
Packers defense, I couldn't believe what they did on that last Bears play, and we talked about this a little bit, to let them get into field goal range. They had 3 guys all the way back at almost the goal line.
Yeah, because
They were deep beyond the 20.
Yeah.
And obviously the Bears only had to get to about the 35, and that's where they ended up. I think it was a 51-yarder that went through the uprights. So I thought Joe Barry was back in the booth calling the defense, sitting back like that.
Yeah, which if it was a touchdown game, I get. You got 3 back, they need to score a touchdown.
And Caleb Williams been sacked 68 times this year.
Yeah.
Go get him.
Go get him. Yeah, you're not
Especially
wrong. You're not
because
wrong.
if Williams does take a sack there, the Bears are out of timeouts. The game's over.
Game's over.
So
yeah.
I couldn't believe that when the Packers defense, in the totality of that game, didn't play horribly because he had the special teams touchdown off the punt return, which tip the hat to the Bears on that one. They actually executed that perfectly. But yeah, I couldn't believe that from the Packers. 1-5 in the division.
This might be a bad
11-6 overall. They're a good team, but they doomed themselves by not being able to beat the Lions once, not being able to beat the Vikings once, and losing to the Bears now. It's just it doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. And, we talked about Jordan Love last year in the second half of the season, how he really turned it on and was great.
Toyotathon, yeah.
Toyotathon. Maybe he's got to change.
I think is now over. Shoot.
Yeah, maybe he's got to change dealership thons.
They're in big trouble. So at the same time, as we're talking right now, Jalen Hurts has not cleared concussion protocol.
True.
So they could be going up against Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee. That would be huge. Toyotathon is over as of yesterday. So I think it was over when the Packers went into Dallas last year and smoked them. So you also have that if you're a Packers fan. You remember back last year, they're the 7th seed, going on the road to face the division winner in the NFC East, and they obliterated them. So you do have that. But I also think the Eagles are 1,000 times better than the Cowboys were last year.
And if you're the Eagles and you go into this game and you don't have Jalen Hurts, you just keep the ball on the ground because
you have a running back who had the best season for a running back since Adrian Peterson.
Yeah,
I would say when he won the MVP.
So you just give him the ball and
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Then you just got to play defense, and Philly has a solid defense. They know that they're going to have to stop Josh Jacobs, and if they stop Josh Jacobs, well, then they got it.
Yep. And, you got basketball to watch on Fox UP on Thursday. You got the Packers to watch on Fox UP on Sunday afternoon, 4:30 Eastern Time on Fox. That game will get going in Philadelphia. We'll check the injury report. We'll get our first one tomorrow as we get set for this wild card matchup. Looking forward to it. Also glad the Lions get to wait a week and won't stress you out this Sunday.
Yeah, certainly.
With both of those games going. So looking forward to it. Not feeling great about the backers, but we'll see. Maybe they find a little magic and do what they did last year in Dallas. But
you never know. Do we close out with Super Bowl picks? Who we want to see?
yes. So obviously we haven't talked about the AFC. Chiefs, 15-2 because they got smoked by the Broncos without their starters.
Yeah. Bo Nix, 26
Pencil in the Chiefs. I talked about the Lions just having to win 2 home games to go to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs have the same situation, and they do that every year. Last year they went on the road, went to the Super Bowl, and won it. So why would they not do it again?
Who else in the AFC? Can you throw the Bills? Can you throw?
There's 3 teams. There's 3 teams in the AFC that could go to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. But most people agree: Buffalo, Baltimore, and Kansas City.
Yeah, I like it.
So one of those teams is probably going to go in for the AFC Championship. Buffalo, obviously, the only team to beat the Chiefs with their starters this year. Baltimore, remember the opening night of the season? They were a toe away from beating the Chiefs. So they will play great games, but the Chiefs are going to come out on top. So that's
Patrick Mahomes has the ball in the fourth quarter. It's over.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
So I'm going to pick the Chiefs from the AFC.
You're gonna upset some people.
I'm gonna pick the Eagles in the NFC. I don't want to put my terrible expectations or predictions on the Lions. So I have the Eagles going into Ford Field in the NFC Championship game, taking down the Detroit Lions. Obviously, that would be gutting for the second straight year to lose in the NFC Championship game. This one would be at home. But yeah, the Eagles and the Chiefs. I think the Eagles get back at the Chiefs for a couple years ago in Philadelphia, your Super Bowl champions.
No, that's fair. I'm going to give you two quick ones.
Obviously, they need Jalen Hurts to get healthy.
I'm going to go Bills, Eagles. I think that Buffalo has the
That would
stuff
be fun.
to beat Kansas City. And I agree with you that I think Philadelphia, if they get there, can take down Detroit. My other one is vice versa. Detroit takes down Philadelphia and then plays Kansas City in the Super Bowl. And
That would be fun.
I don't know.
Did we see that matchup this year? No.
Detroit, Kansas City?
No. We did not. So the last time they played was that Week 1 game, 2023, when the Lions went in there and beat them and started their magical season last year. Where isn't that crazy how record-setting and historic their 12-5 year was last year? Now they're 15-2 and doing the same thing. So obviously super excited for the NFL playoffs. Always fun, always great games, and the football is just the best you're going to get.
No, yeah, and I hate to say it. I know I said it for college football where it's Ohio State's to lose. I think it's Detroit's to lose because I think everybody is like
in the
behind
NFC.
it.
Yeah,
everyone in the NFC is.
You get to the Super Bowl, you have 2 weeks off. Anything can happen. You're going to have 2 very evenly matched teams, I'd imagine. So,
also, who do the Lions get back?
the fact that the Lions have never been to the Super Bowl in almost 60 years. So might be their year. I hope it is for all the Lions fans. And then as a Bears fan, I hope you just, kind of disappear back into nothing. But I know that's probably not going to happen with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. So looking forward to it. For Keegan Cooper, I'm Kevin McNulty. Thanks for joining us here on UP Power, and we'll see you again next week.